Hey Reclaim students, welcome back to Youth Group. I hope we all had a great week. Last Wednesday night, we started off this new series called What to Do When You Don't Know What to Do. And we were talking about Joseph and his family and all the craziness that's happening with that. And we're gonna be continuing with Joseph's life for the next few weeks. But before we get right into that, I wanna ask you all a question. How many of you, or even people you know, use way too many emojis when you're texting? You know who I'm talking about. You know, the times when people are texting and it seems like every sentence has to have at least 2 or 3 different emojis, or sometimes an entire text message is just different emojis and no words at all. Now personally, I'm a big fan of using GIFs way too much. You may notice in our chat that a lot of times, instead of responding with actual words, I'll send a GIF that sort of says what I want to say instead. You know, maybe someone sends you some really shocking news and you use an emoji like this or this or this, but what I really prefer to use is a GIF that looks like this. And I bet you that when you use an emoji or a GIF like that, you know, you're not responding to some great news, like your friend saying, hey, I got a new phone or something. You know, normally we use these when something bad happens, right? When something catches us completely off guard. Have you ever experienced something like this? You know, something that it just caught you completely off guard. It rocked your world. It gave you a whole bunch of uncertainty and maybe even caused you a lot of pain. Maybe you felt this way when your mom and dad told you that they were splitting up, or maybe a friend said something really mean to you, or maybe you felt this way when parents said that they're moving and you have to leave the place with all your friends. Or maybe you got injured and now you can't do that thing that you really want to do, or maybe you got dumped by the person who you really like, or even maybe you took a test and you didn't get the score that you wanted. You know, this list can go on and on and on. Maybe you had your world rocked, shaken, made to feel uncertain in a different way. And if not, it's gonna happen eventually. And something that makes these hard moments even harder is that they seem to come out of nowhere. And now we're left unprepared trying to deal with it. And when these things happen, I mean, sometimes honestly, we surprise ourselves with how well we handle it. Whereas other times we're surprised at how much it tears us apart. And sometimes when these things happen, it feels like we're closer to God than we ever have been. And other times we just find ourselves asking, God, where are you in all of this? But that doesn't change the fact that getting hurt, I mean, it hurts. And when life hurts us, we end up wondering, what do we do next? And that's what we're gonna be looking at in this series, what to do when you don't know what to do. When we're in that situations where not only we don't have words, we don't even have an emoji or a GIF to explain how we're feeling in that moment. And that's exactly how Joseph must have felt during all of this. So we're gonna pick up exactly where we left off last week. So Joseph, he's one of the most famous people in the Old Testament. And his family definitely had some drama, but let's be honest, Joseph contributed a bit to that drama. You know, he was the father's favorite son, and he got a lot of special treatment because of that. And he had a dream about his brothers and even parents coming and bowing down to him. And because, well, apparently his social cues weren't the greatest, he went and he told his family about these dreams. So his brothers aren't okay with him being the favorite, surprise. And they're also not really cool with him talking about how one day he's gonna rule over them and they're gonna bow to him. So let's look at how his brothers decided to respond to all of this. So check this out. In Genesis 37:18, it says, but they, that being, you know, the brothers, but they saw him in the distance, and before he reached them, they plotted to kill him. Well, things just went from 0 to 100 super quick right there, but it keeps going. Read with me here. Here comes that dreamer, they said to each other. Come on now, let's kill him, throw him into one of the cisterns, and say that a ferocious animal devoured him. Then we'll see what comes of his dreams. So despite his anger for Joseph, one of his brothers is like, hold up, let's think about this for a second. You know, he has a conscience during all of this. So in Genesis 37:21 through 22, it says, when Reuben heard this, he tried to rescue him from their hands. Let's not take his life, he said. Don't shed any blood. Throw him into the cistern in the wilderness. Don't lay a hand on him. Reuben said this to rescue him from them and to take him back to his father. So like, thank goodness for Reuben, right? He decides, hey guys, let's not kill him. Instead, we'll just throw him into this hole in the ground. And then later on he plans, you know, I'm gonna take him out and bring him back home after all of that. And thankfully the brothers listen to Reuben. So when Joseph shows up, they rip off that cloak of his and throw him into the well. But things don't really play out how Reuben planned for them to. You see, a little bit later on, this caravan comes, and Judah, one of the other brothers, he says, hey, why don't we sell Joseph to these traders? Because, you know, selling Joseph into slavery, it's almost as good as killing him, you know, gets him out of our lives, and we can make some money off of him, right? So that's exactly what they do. They sell Joseph off to these traders, and they take his coat and they dip it in some animal blood. And so when they come home, they show this to their father and say, look, Joseph, he's been attacked by a wild animal and he's been killed. And so in verse 32 it says, they took the ornate robe back to their father and said, we found this. Examine to see whether it is your son's robe. And so the way that they describe this, I think, says everything about it. You know, they're so angry at Joseph. They don't even say, oh, look, is this our brother's robe or anything like that. They say, is this your son's robe? I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I can't actually like put myself into Joseph's situation here. Not exactly, right? You know, my brothers have never plotted to murder me, and I've never been sold off into slavery after they threw me into a well, right? I mean, my brothers have done some mean things to me in the past, but nothing like this. I mean, what would you even do in a situation like this? You know, how do you get yourself unsold? How do you get away from these people and get home again? And so although we may not have the same story as Joseph, you know, maybe you don't have family members who are trying to kill you or sell you off, I bet that most of you've experienced some sort of pain, something that you've dealt with and you're not sure what to do in that situation. And unfortunately for Joseph, this is just the beginning of his crazy life story. And in the following weeks, we're going to be talking more and more about his crazy story. But right now, I want to highlight these 5 words in one of the verses that sort of explain Joseph's situation. Now, there's craziness, there's a whole lot to it, but these 5 words really, I don't know, they're very impactful. They really tell what's behind all of this. And that is in Genesis 39:2, just the beginning part here. It says, the Lord was with Joseph. So Joseph, he's sitting in a well and his future isn't looking too great. He's probably not sure what to do in this situation. You know, he's in despair. He's wondering how life is going to turn out for him. And through all of that, he can rely on this single truth, that God, he's with him. But let's be honest, this truth here, it doesn't mean that Joseph is no longer stuck in a pit or sold into slavery. It doesn't change that fact. In fact, it doesn't even mean that he can look ahead and see where his future is going to be. You know, he can at least get some comfort in knowing what's going to happen after. But it does mean this, that he wasn't entirely dependent on himself to deal with this situation. You know, during this crazy part in his life, he didn't have to figure it all out on his own. And the same thing is true for you. You see, when there's nothing you can do, God is with you. When life hands you this shocking news and you're not sure what to do, God is with you. And honestly, I mean, we hear stuff like this all the time, so much that sometimes it doesn't even really feel like it means anything anymore. But I want you to honestly think about that for a second. You see, God is with you, not in some abstract sort of way, but he is literally with you all the time. He is with you, he's near you, he's next to you. Even when you feel alone, he is there. And you see, when you and I can embrace this truth, things change. Now you see, our circumstances may not change because of this. You know, Joseph was still in the same spot that he was, but it can change our perspective on things. Maybe even more than anything, knowing this, it can give us hope to persevere through what we're going through. Knowing that God is with us, it may not change our circumstances, but it can change us. You know, it's really easy to just give in to the hurt that we feel. You know, it's easy to let fear overwhelm us and to have anger consume us. But when we know that God is with us, the hurt, the uncertainty, it doesn't get the last word. God does. So what does this look like for us? Now, I can't tell you exactly, all right, if you do this, then your problem's going to be solved. But there are some things that we can do to help the situation. The first thing, be real. Allow yourself to feel your feelings. You know, not everyone is going to have incredible luck in their life, but everyone is going to experience some sort of hardship, some sort of pain. Look through your Bible. There's tons of stories of people who are going through hard times, difficult things, and they're really not sure what to do in that. But those people will often go to God. They'll be real with their situations. If you don't believe me, read through Psalms. There's tons of times where he's just being brutally honest talking with God. Look, I don't have any cliches for you. I'm not going to tell you just to give it to God and pretend like everything's okay and eventually it will be. But I will tell you that it's okay to go to God. That you can go with him with your questions, your doubts, and just be honest with him. And the second thing that you can do is remind yourself and remind others that God is actually, literally with you. So quick spoiler alert for Joseph's story. Things in the end, they work out for him. But Joseph had no idea this was gonna happen. You know, we know this because, well, the story's already happened, it's been written down, but while he's living this, he doesn't know how things are gonna play out. And maybe that's what you're feeling. You're like, I don't know what's gonna happen the next day, week, or even year. And when we're in those really tough situations, that's when it's most important to remember that God is with us through all of this. So remember, God is with you. Your story isn't over. So yes, our life, it's gonna be full of hard times where we're not sure what to do. And when we have those times, we need to remember to go to God. And we also need to remember to go to people who we trust. And that's what our small groups and your leaders are for. So if you're at a point where you're not sure what to do, whether that's today, tomorrow, or next year, I want to encourage you to go to God and to go to someone who you trust, a parent, a leader, a close friend who gives good advice. And when you do that, it will give you hope when things are feeling hopeless. Now, it's probably not going to solve your situation right away, but having someone who you can count on, it helps so much when you're in a time like that. And when you're going through one of those situations where you just don't know what to do, and you allow yourself to go to God and be brutally honest, when you allow yourself to go to those people who you trust and tell them and have them support you doing that, you will know that you're not alone. All right, that's it for this week, but I'll catch you in the group chat. Bye, everyone.